Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Charles Karangwa. I am the Global Head of Nature-Based Solutions at the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. I wanted to join you personally, to be there in person. Unfortunately, regardless of many efforts, I couldn't make it. I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this great conference for inviting IUCN to be part of this discussion. In the next few minutes, I just wanted to share with you our thoughts on nature-based solution and circularity. And I will share my screen since I have a few slides that I want to present. Just to start, IUCN, we call ourselves the world's largest environmental network. I'm sure many of people in the room knows IUCN. And we are a union composed of members, including state members, but also civil society, indigenous people organization. And we work to be the voice of nature, but also to bring the science and knowledge that is needed for the global community to be able to conserve, protect, and sustainably manage different ecosystems. I just want to start this presentation reflecting on a recently World Economic Forum released report. And the reason I started with this is because I was very shocked by the analysis in this report, showing that in the next 10 years, the key highlights in the what we call global crisis areas highlighted important elements here, highlighted at least for the first four, what we call global risk, all are related to environmental issues, extreme weather, critical challenge to Earth systems, biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse, natural resource shortage, etc. But also, as you can see on the number 10, there is pollution. But because we're talking about nature-based solution and circularity, I think it's good to also pay attention to other issues here: cyber insecurity, societal polarization, involuntary migration, just to name a few of those global risks by severity. It's quite eye-opening, but of course, we are already, as a global community, facing climate change, and it's really rapidly and negatively impacting cities and rural areas and different areas. And we should really be aware that this is a reality we are all facing, flood and sea level rising, just among many other issues that we are facing. And this is not just for one region or another, it's across the global community, from Africa to Asia to Europe. As a matter of fact, some of these pictures are recently taken by Reuters in Europe, and there was a serious crisis of flooding, which affected many countries in the Central and the Eastern Europe. So this is really a reality, and this is probably not something that we can deny. And from a biodiversity point of view, this is from IUCN Red List, it's very clear that species are threatened with extinction, and the numbers keeps really coming out in an alarming way from all types of species, and surprisingly, regardless many efforts that the global community is putting, we do think it's not enough yet to bring down the curve of losing biodiversity. All these are issues, right? And we know them. But I guess we do have an alternative. We do have an alternative as policymakers, as practitioners, as investors, as science gurus and academicians. I mean, we do have a choice. We have a choice to make. And that alternative is that holistic nature-based solutions for sustainable cities is a choice for rural areas, for farmlands, for investors. Nature-based solution can be an absolute great choice as an alternative to those crises that we saw already early. And working with nature through effective nature-based solution can significantly improve biodiversity, climate change, increase resilience, but also improve healthy outcomes, while of course enabling us to achieve sustainable development goals. And you can see here, bringing together nature-based solutions and circular economy that could create sustainable livelihood, sustainable living, healthy living, but also reduce our risk and the losses of biodiversity that we are seeing today. And there's also an additional good news. Nature-based solution demand has increased in the last 10 years. Since the last COP in COP27, actually COP26, 27, 28, we have seen tremendous uptake and reference of nature-based solutions. And all the Rio Convention finally referenced the nature-based solutions, and many of my multilateral environmental agreement, many national determined contribution, NBSAP at national level, national development plans, national adaptation plans, both urban and city plans, they make reference to nature-based solutions, to calling the real work with nature to address different societal problems and challenges, including, of course, food security and water security and many other problems. So this is really a good news. The second is nature-based solutions have already been defined by UNEA, and of course, from that builds on IUCN definition, which was adopted by all members of IUCN in 2016. And from a multilateral point of view, we no longer have an excuse because nature-based solutions are clearly defined. We can find this online, this great definition, which really brings together all types of ecosystems from terrestrial, freshwater, coastal, and marine, but also brings the socio-economic aspects, the environmental aspects, and the human well-being, while, of course, continue to preserve biodiversity. And this is great. This is all great that we have nature-based solution as a framework, as an instrument to drive these changes in an integrated, in a holistically coordinated way to address multiple problems, including climate change, disaster risk reduction, food and water security, human health, ecosystem degradation, just to name a few of those. But these are realities. Nature-based solutions have that power of actually bringing systematic change that we need to be more resilient. Of course, nature-based solution is not the end in itself, and it's not a magic bullet points that can replace a rapid phase out of fossil fuels, energy transition, and other rapid action that are needed to mitigate climate change and stop emissions. This is important to be aware that we cannot just continue to pollute and expect nature-based solution to be effective. We need to drive those two forces together. And of course, nature-based solution does not work in silos. And importantly, they work in synergy with other interventions. Here we are showing that natural infrastructures and nature-based solution, wetland ecosystems can work collaboratively with the gray infrastructure to make a city more resilient. This can happen in an agricultural sector, it can happen in infrastructure, it can happen in a city, in a rural area. That combination, that call for the power of nature to help us being more resilient is very unique, to help us manage all the risk that we talked about. And of course, we need to foster, to be able to move to the right solutions, we need to foster collaboration from UN agencies, from private sector, from civil society, from indigenous people organization. We really need to foster collaboration to focus on scale and avoid duplication. We know what works. Indigenous knowledge tells us already that it works. It works for a coastal and mangrove area. It works for a rangeland area, a drought area. It works for a city, but also a rural area. And we need to really embrace that voice, which calls for nature value, to give that value to nature and the ecosystem to be part of our work. Again, as I said, solution that works already exist. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's scale them up. Let's look at how much we can achieve needed transformation to be able to make our ecosystems more resilient. Nature-based solutions require transformation and integration. They don't work in silos. Here we are looking at a very abandoned city in Asia, and really working very, very well to make this city more increasing. So resilient to shocks, to floods. And this is a case, it's a reality. This has happened. We know that the Sanya Mangrove Park has really worked to make a city more resilient. And of course, we know some of these works, but the question is, how do we scale this up? How do we make this more integrated solution to start really addressing? And this is in Thailand, a very abandoned area completely that have been transformed with nature, empowering, bringing back nature in the city. And you can see that investment that has worked to make this area even more beautiful, more healthier. People are more happier to be able to work in a more integrated way. And it's possible for all types of ecosystem, including terrestrial ecosystems, marine, but also freshwater. And I will close with just a few messages. Number one, I think it's important to realize that nature-based solutions are well established and need to be mainstreamed across investment and policies. The IUCN Global Standard for Nature-Based Solution is a go-to tool to support design, implementation, and monitoring of effective and credible nature-based solutions. Effective planning and management of nature-based solutions requires going beyond national administrative boundaries, but it focuses on collaborative, cross-sectoral, and transboundary response to challenges. And then finally, nature is not a passive player in our investment. Instead, nature is a shareholder and should receive dividend from our return on investment if we really want to make our work more resilient and sustainable. I want to take this moment to thank you for your attention, and I wish you fruitful discussions.